The bustling streets of Ibadan, where stalls crowded every corner and people's voices mixed with the honks of passing cars, Tunde walked with purpose. He was a young man with dreams bigger than his pockets, but his heart was rich with kindness. As he maneuvered through the crowd, he noticed an elderly woman struggling to cross the road. Without hesitation, Tunde rushed to her side. "Let me help you, Mama," he said gently, taking her arm. On the other side of the street, Mama Kemi paused to catch her breath. "What is your name, young man?" she asked, looking at Tunde with curious eyes. "Tunde, Mama. I just finished school and am looking for work." Mama Kemi nodded, observing his clothes, clean but clearly worn. "Work is scarce, but you have a good heart. Maybe it was fate I met you." Tunde smiled shyly, unsure of what to say, unaware this simple act of kindness would change his life. A week later, Tunde received a call. Mama Kemi wanted to see him. As he approached her grand house, nervousness crept in. He was greeted by a housekeeper and led into a large living room where Mama Kemi waited with a seemingly serious expression. "Tunde, I've been thinking," she began. "My children have all left me. I live here alone with servants who don't understand me." Tunde nodded, unsure of where the conversation was heading. "I want to offer you something," Mama Kemi continued. Tunde's heart raced. "You have a good heart, and I need someone trustworthy around. Would you consider working for me?" she asked. Tunde's eyes widened in surprise. "Work for you, Mama?" "Yes, help me manage things here. In return, I'll pay you well. Think about it." Without a second thought, Tunde agreed. As weeks turned into months, Tunde became a trusted presence in Mama Kemi's life. He managed her errands, accompanied her on outings, and listened to her stories. The respect he gained was genuine, but envy soon followed him like a shadow. Neighbors began talking. "Why him?" they murmured, suspicious of Tunde's intentions. "Is he using Mama Kemi's generosity?" Tunde heard the whispers, but chose to ignore them, knowing that his heart was clean. It wasn't long before the whispers reached the ears of Mama Kemi's children, who rarely visited unless they needed something. Her daughter, Amara, paid an unexpected visit one afternoon. "Mama, what is this I hear about you giving Tunde work?" Amara asked, her tone sharp. Mama Kemi waved her off. "He helps me, Amara. He's like a son to me." Amara frowned, glancing at Tunde. Suspicion clouded her eyes. Days later, Tunde found Mama Kemi sitting alone, her face lined with worry. "Mama, are you okay?" he asked, noticing her pained expression. "Ah, Tunde, I am old and tired. My health isn't what it used to be," she confessed softly. Tunde knelt beside her chair. "Is there anything I can do?" "You do more than enough, my boy," she replied. But her words were heavy with unspoken concerns. Rumors began to twist tales of deceit. "Maybe she's giving him inheritance," a neighbor speculated. "He's probably coaxing it out of her," another added. This sea of negativity slowly invaded Tunde's world, drowning him in doubt. When Amara confronted him, her accusations cut deep. "What are you doing with my mother, Tunde?" Amara snapped. "Do you think you can just walk in and take what doesn't belong to you?" Tunde's heart cracked. All his attempts to explain were thrown back with mistrust. Mama Kemi was the only one who knew the truth, but her declining health made everything hang by a thread. Each day, Tunde felt the weight of invisible eyes judging him. Caught in the web of lies, Tunde couldn't help but wonder. Was he truly alone in this battle? One night, as the rain pattered softly against the windows, Mama Kemi called Tunde to her side. Her eyes, once sharp, now flickered like dying candles. "Tunde," she whispered, her voice a mere shadow of its old strength. "I need you to be strong, Tunde." Through tears, Tunde nodded, but inside anger brewed, bubbling with injustice and a need for vindication. As the family's coldness grew, so did Tunde's resolve. He visited Mama Kemi's lawyer secretly, determined to protect the legacy she wanted him to uphold. The thought of her family taking advantage repulsed him. "You have my word," the lawyer assured, but Tunde's heart wasn't convinced. Too many secrets, too much at stake. The tension broke one sunny afternoon. Mama Kemi's health took a turn, and she was hospitalized. The family gathered, eyes cast on Tunde like he'd orchestrated the storm. "She'd have been fine if not for him," Amara muttered within earshot, venom lacing her voice. Tunde stood by silently, castigated by the very people he hoped to win over. In the sterile warmth of the hospital room, Tunde sat by Mama Kemi's bedside. "I tried, Mama," he whispered, his heart heavy. Through tears, Tunde nodded, but inside, anger brewed, bubbling with injustice and a need for vindication. As days passed, the lawyer came to the house looking for signs of Mama Kemi's recovery. He pulled Tunde aside with an envelope in hand. "She trusts you, Tunde. Everything she owns will pass on to you after her time on Earth ends." Shock numbed Tunde. "But the family," he started, mind spiraling with how they would react. "You must decide how to deal with them," the lawyer advised before leaving. That evening, Tunde returned to his small room in the servants' quarters. The envelope clutched tightly. Anger and fear swirled inside him. As he stared at the moonlit ceiling, an idea took root, one that could change everything. To protect Mama Kemi's wishes, he'd have to show the family the true extent of their greed and betrayal. A single thought pounded in his mind as he closed his eyes, the resolve setting in. They would have to face the truth, or face him. The next morning, Tunde's determination led him to confront Amara at the hospital. As he approached her in the long, crowded hallway, the smell of antiseptic tinged the air with a sense of unease. "Amara, we need to talk," Tunde said, his voice steady despite the storm inside him. Amara, her arms crossed defensively, glared at him. "About how you're planning to take everything from us?" Amara scoffed, her skepticism palpable. "And you think you know her better than her own family?" "I know that she was lonely," Tunde replied, the weight of his words pressing down on him. "She wanted peace, not this constant fighting." Amara hesitated, and for a moment uncertainty flickered across her face. "She's our mother, Tunde, but you've conveniently inserted yourself between us." The hospital room was silent except for the rhythmic beeping of machines. Tunde sat by Mama Kemi's bedside, her frail hand resting in his. "I tried, Mama," he whispered, his heart heavy. Mama Kemi's fingers curled weakly around his. "Truth comes out eventually, my son. Just be patient." As Tunde leaned back, he realized that patience was not his strong suit. But a storm was brewing, and he knew it would soon break. The unsuspecting calm of the living room back at the mansion was shattered by raised voices as Amara gathered her siblings. They surrounded Tunde, accusations flying like arrows. "How dare you think you're part of this family?" Amara's brother Kunle spat. His eyes darkened with anger. Tunde stood his ground. "I never wanted anything but to help her." As tensions escalated, Tunde felt the fragile walls of reason crack around him. His resolve hardened. If they wanted proof of their own greed, he'd lay it bare before them. He fished out Mama Kemi's recent medical bills and financial records he'd managed. Spreading them across the table, he spoke with a clipped edge. "Look, this is what I've been doing, not what you've been whispering about." But secrets had a way of unraveling the harshest of facades. As Tunde presented his evidence, Amara's eyes softened with grudging acknowledgement. Yet it did nothing to quell the underlying hostility from her siblings. "You should have come to us," Amara admitted reluctantly, eyes downcast. Tunde sighed heavily. "I tried, Amara, but trust was not something any of you were willing to offer." The bitterness in the room was almost palpable, but it was Mama Kemi's struggle in the hospital that lurked at the edges of everyone's minds. Tunde felt the weight of the envelope in his pocket, a cruel reminder of the world's skewed scales. That night, sleep eluded him. Shadows cast on the walls twisted into worries, and he realized the path he was on might not be the righteous one. As dawn broke, the thought of vengeance faded to ash, replaced by an unrelenting sense of futility. Tunde went to the small, humble community church he hadn't visited in months, craving solace in its quiet sanctity. The old wooden pews creaked under his weight as Tunde sat, his head bowed, emotions crashing over him like waves. It was there, alone in that sacred space, that he felt the first inkling of conviction. "God, I don't know what to do," he whispered into the empty air, his voice breaking. "I wanted justice, but it only brought more pain." As if in answer, snippets of his grandmother's words came to him, her voice, warm and steady, recounting scriptures about love and forgiveness. "Vengeance is mine. I will repay, saith the Lord. The truth struck deeper than any knife. Revenge hadn't healed him. Only Christ could mend the broken pieces. With a heavy heart, Tunde returned home, a new lightness guiding his steps. He found Amara standing in the courtyard, alone, her eyes red from unshed tears. "They're so angry, Tunde," she admitted, her toughness momentarily peeling away. "But I see now, you're not our enemy." Tunde nodded, understanding they both had battles to fight, not against each other, but against the shadows within. "I've been praying," Tunde confessed, his voice softening. "Maybe it's time we let Mama Kemi's love guide us instead of our anger." Amara looked at him, new respect settling between them as the possibility of reconciliation opened its wary eyes. It wasn't an end, but perhaps it was a beginning. The truth of his faith moved through him, a quiet certainty that echoed even after he left the courtyard. Back in Mama Kemi's hospital room, Tunde sat by her side and whispered, "I'll protect your legacy, Mama, through love, not anger." Though Mama Kemi couldn't respond, Tunde felt her spirit breathe a sigh of relief. The days that followed found Tunde, Amara, and Kunle slowly rebuilding bridges that had been burnt by misunderstanding. There were no grand gestures, just quiet conversations and small acts of kindness, the seeds of a miracle. Together, they redrafted the will to include provisions for all Mama Kemi's children and a specific fund to help those in need, just as she would have wanted. Tunde stared at the revised document with a sense of peace he hadn't imagined possible just weeks before. "This is right," he said, passing it to Amara, who nodded in agreement. As he left the lawyer's office, an unbidden prayer rose within him. "Thank you, Lord, for showing me a new path." Months later, as Mama Kemi finally found rest, Tunde stood with her family at her graveside. The church bell tolled softly, a melody of closure and beginning. Amara stood beside him, tears brimming, yet with a gentle acceptance glistening within. "Thank you, Tunde," she whispered, her hand briefly clasping his. Tunde nodded, profoundly grateful. Revenge had not won, but through faith they had found a truer peace.
Thank you so much for listening to this intriguing story. I hope it touched you or taught you something. For more stories like this, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the page. And guys, if you'd like to see a part 2, or you have thoughts on what happened, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. See you in the next story.